Hey guys, welcome to the Guy Fishing Podcast. This is episode 3. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Everybody's going to think that this is a hockey podcast because my guest today is Jeremy Mylymok, who is also a stud hockey player. We'll get into a little bit about that and some of the things that he's done. But hockey's how I've met a lot of these guys. And a lot of guys that are in hockey are obviously hardcore into fishing. So Jeremy, thanks for being a part of this, man.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's always been a lot of fun to hang with you and on whether it's the river or just in life. So I'm excited to be on your podcast. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate it, and I too, you're one of those guys that been playing hockey your whole life. Golf is one of those things that kind of goes along with hockey, and you still play a ton of golf, but all of a sudden one day you decided to pivot and start getting into fly fishing, and that's kind of where our relationship took off. I mean, just a tiny bit of background. A lot of people know my kid plays hockey. And people who listen to the last podcast know that Corey Scorsy, by the way, everybody in hockey has a nickname. So Jeremy Mylymok, you'll hear me calling him Millsy. Corey Scoren, the last guest is Scorsy. Scorsy is now the director of hockey for the city of Boise, but that used to be your position. We'll get to what you're doing now, but that's where you and I met. You were the director of hockey for Boise.
Yeah, so we met years ago, and I think it goes even further back to our Millmock hockey camps in McCall. And you came up and talked to me as a young kid playing hockey, and you said, "Hey, love to get my kid in your camp. Why don't we just do a trade?" And you stay at one of my places up McCall and throw my kid in the camp. So didn't really know you,
Yeah.
what to expect, and then we got to the place. I'm like, man, I said, Brian got his legs cut off here because this place we stayed at, I think it was Black Hawk on the Bend. It was, if I remember correctly, we got there with a family. I'm like, this is
And
unbelievable. And I'm like, Ben's going to be in this camp for life. But yeah, that's how we met. And then I grew up fishing. My grandfather taught me years ago, and then never fly fished. And then that's where we connected. Where just you got me into it. I was intrigued by it, wanted to learn more about it. Loved the outdoors. Was in Idaho and liked to golf. And so my passion went from, I guess, the golf course to the river, and it's something that I was able to share with my kids, and I still do to this day. And I still do both, but if I had to pick one or the other, I'm hitting the river. In a nutshell, I played Division One college hockey up in Anchorage for UAA, the Seawolves, and then had 11 years in the minors in ECHL, West Coast Hockey League, American League, IHL, you name it. Bounced around quite a bit through different areas and then different leagues. And then my last stop was Boise. I talked to my dad about towards the end of my career, and he said, "Hey, find a spot that you enjoy living and you can network in the community and stay for a while." And that's the best way to do it. So I took his advice, and thankfully I did. I ended up in Boise, Idaho, and loved it. Connor was born just before he moved there, and then Luke was born in Boise in '01. So it was a great spot for the boys to grow up and just it's such an amazing area. They got to experience the outdoors, the fishing, the camping, the hiking, the skiing, and my thought with them was just get involved in everything. So they played every sport growing up, and I didn't really push them towards hockey. Obviously I know hockey, but in fairness to them and their lives, I thought, you know what? Who knows what your passion is, whether it's playing an instrument, whether it's acting, whether it's athletics, just give them as much opportunity to kind of find their niche in life. And at a young age, every kid has, a passion somewhere underneath. It's just a matter of finding what that is. If you don't push them to that area and they try something new or outside the box, maybe, who knows if they'll ever like it. It's like fly fishing. If I didn't get them into fly fishing, who knows if they ever really enjoyed it. But for me, I guess, them picking hockey and the end of it, they chose hockey. That was their passion over lacrosse and baseball and golf and, skiing and water skiing, everything else, you name it. And it was easy for me to relate to them and give them life lessons and give them some advice in their hockey careers, the pitfalls of what not to fall into, how to deal with coaches, how to deal with situations, prepare them for training camps, prepare them for college, and work with them and be and have honest conversations throughout the year where they're not talking to their dads per se, they're talking to their advisor in a way too, because I understand what it takes to play at a high level. And kids might think they know what it takes, but
Yeah,
a lot of a
yeah.
lot of a lot of corrections and a lot of times, some tough conversations that it's never I never get upset with them about how they play if they had a bad game. It's always just, hey, this is what you could have done better. This is what you need to work on. Those types of conversations, and then at the end of the day, it's up to them. If they want to improve, then they got to put in the work.
Right, right. No, yeah, you've been an amazing mentor, not only for my kid, but a ton of kids. Real quick, because I want to set the table, the right way on this. Like I've said, this podcast is not just about fishing, but a lot of people who are into fishing, have live life, entrepreneurship or dealing with some of life's challenges. And you've definitely done that with grace. I mean, you've had a lot of really great things work out for you, and then you've had a couple gut punches along the way that have kind of led you back here to Idaho. And I was talking to Scorsy. You not only did you have a great hockey career, but also you ended up winning a cup with the Steelheads. That was a pretty cool deal. What year
Yep,
was that again?
2004.
2004. Yeah. So a lot of, and again, through hard work, like you said, brought you to these places. I mean, it wasn't handed to you by any way, shape, or form. You busted your
Yeah,
ass in order to make it to these places. Here you are now. You got a family. You're a director of hockey for Boise, and then also we have our youth program, the Steelheads. And for anybody who's done anything in athletics, and most of our listeners probably have kids involved in soccer or baseball or hockey, they know all about these travel groups. And man, what a pain in the ass they can be. What it's great for the kids and just can be a real nightmare for the parents. And you not only were our hockey director, but also took on kind of getting the Steelheads rolling and this travel program that we had that today, I do want to just say is honestly like truly, truly changed kids' lives. And we have kids playing all over the United States, D1 colleges that really did come out because it came out of Boise, Idaho because of this Steelheads program. But that program actually is what ended up getting you pushed out of Boise and on to this next
yeah,
deal in your life. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit about this gut punch you took and what you did with that and kind of how this whole thing ended up.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, in a nutshell, it was, my decision had to be one or the other. I mean, you had the city of Boise director of hockey, and you have the junior Steelheads. And I was director of hockey for both for a while, and ultimately it came down to one or the other. And then through the process of it all, you know, I had to look at myself and say, okay, do I want to do this for the rest of my life, um, as the director of hockey for the city of Boise? And to me, I got two young kids playing hockey that played travel hockey, and now I got to make a decision. If you work for one, you can't help the other. And so my choice was just to do neither, I guess. And I had an opportunity to move to Florida to work for the Panthers. It was a big move, and it was something that, you know, I don't think a lot of people would have taken. You're in a place you love and in a community that you've been in for 10, 12
Yeah.
years. But my dad always taught me, it's a big world out there, and take advantage of your opportunities because they don't always come around twice. And for me, I thought, all right, if I want to grow in my role, and if I want my kids to develop as players, they got to see new things, see new competition, and play at a higher level. So I think back when I was there, still to this day, most of your top kids in Boise were leaving and going to out
Yeah.
east or going to Colorado or going to prep school. So we just all went, I guess, so to speak. So I was in Florida for two
The whole
years working for
family.
the Junior Panthers. Great experience. We had our own travel program. Yeah, whole family. So we had a travel program. I remember telling the kids, I was in Florida when I talked to the ownership and management there. And I came back with a couple, I don't know, Panther stuff for the kids. They said they're moving to Florida. And, they were pretty excited. And of course, they're a little bit, heartbroken leaving their friends. But,
Yeah.
the one thing my kids learn from this is they're resilient, and kids are resilient. So I mean, it was a big move, and we got there, and it was awesome. Like we met so many good people there. We had such a good experience. I got a chance to be in a bigger program at a higher level, make new contacts, meet new people, just enjoy Florida, enjoy the nice winters there, and then after a couple years there, my alma mater came knocking on my door, and the Notre Dame Hounds in Canada, it was one of the top prep schools in the world, um, had a position open in the hockey side, and they asked me if I would interview, and when I got offered the position, talked to the wife and kids, and said this is the opportunity presented, and um, yeah, it was a family discussion, and there we go again. We're going from Florida to Wilcox, Saskatchewan,
Sunny
and
Florida to
so now
Wilcox,
we're in.
Saskatchewan. If no one's been to
Yeah,
Wilcox, paint the
oh
picture
yeah.
for us.
Well, have you seen Fargo? The movie Fargo, the winters there. So there you go. It's small. I mean, it's a small prairie community, about 300 people. Um, it's half hour from the biggest city, the capital of Saskatchewan and Regina. So you're really dependent on the community and your staff there for a livelihood, for your social time. We have a private school with dorms and our own arena and weight room and gymnasium and classroom, so it's a huge deal. The school's 103 years old. It's just steeped in tradition. So, and I went there for high school, so it was kind of like going home for me. I
Yeah.
was there 4 years of high school, and then I went back to work and spent the last 8 years there. And again, it was an amazing stop for my kids. It really helped mold them, not as hockey players, but as people, more importantly. And you know, I know for a fact they wouldn't be where they are today without that experience in Notre Dame. Just the work ethic and the drive and the passion for the game just increased, and the opportunities came, and the competition was there, and they got to play at a high level at a young age with a historic program, and to put them on the map, so to speak, and went from there. So, you know, the kids were resilient the whole way through. Going to Florida, I mean, a lot of good new friends. They're still friends with today. If you go back to Florida, I mean, they got a lot of buddies they can hang out with. And then when they went from Florida to Wilcox, then we were there for 8 years, almost 9 years in that small community. And then the opportunity came to me to come back to Idaho. And I
Yeah.
always thought that I didn't always thought, I always knew this is a spot. Idaho is a place that we always considered home. Canada became home again, but when Idaho came calling, I took about a year to make a decision. To be honest with you, we had the opportunity, and just the timing wasn't right for both sides. And then after doing my research and getting to know the owners, and I was very upfront with Notre Dame too. I told my president, "Hey, I got some offers coming down the pipe here, just so you know, and this is what I'm looking at seriously." And the program was very good to me, so I thought it was right. It was fair to do the right thing with them and let them know. And so I did leave the first offer, and then the second time I knew this was where I wanted to be. It's a chance to be part of a program here, I believe, in Coeur d'Alene that is going to grow and going to be a place that we can build into a nice caliber program. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be more than just hockey as well. So yeah, hockey's it's an amazing sport, and I think a lot of people are afraid to take risks or go, face those challenges. It's always the
Yeah.
unknowns. And
Yep.
even when I came back to Idaho, I mean, the first 3 weeks, I was like, man, did I make the right decision? I'm missing I guess I was comfortable at Notre Dame. I knew what to do every day. I knew the staff. I knew our recruiting pockets, and coming here was like starting over again. But my twin brother told me when I went to Notre Dame the first time, I had no database. I had nothing given to me. I didn't get a ton of direction. It was basically go find 40 kids. And so I was you know, pretty worried about finding those 40 kids. I took over in
Yeah.
April, and I got to find 40 kids by September. And my brother said, "Hey, make it your own, I guess. If you're not getting the direction that you need, and there's no database there, I guess you got to just do things on your own." And in a way, that's a good thing. You can kind of do things your way. You know what works. You know what's successful, and
Yeah.
uh, I don't mind putting all the chips into myself because I trust what I do, and I've been around this business a long time where I have the confidence to say that. when I was starting in this gig, years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but yeah, I'm confident in what I do, and I know if you do things the right way from the start, that just your program will grow, people will build trust, and word gets out. Hockey's a small world, so yeah, I guess in a nutshell, okay. I mean, there's going to be gut punches along the way. There's going to be tough decisions in life. It's what you make of it. You can look at it two ways, and I looked at it in a way to get better and challenge myself to get out of my comfort zone and do different things. And yeah, there's some sleepless nights. Trust me, on making these decisions. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think life is worth living unless you're gonna take those risks. It's no different when you're hunting or on the river. I mean, there's gonna be spots you don't want to go to, but all of a sudden you see that elk that you didn't think you'd see, or you catch that fish that you didn't know think was going to be there. And yeah, maybe you put a little bit extra work at times, but in the end, life's funny that way. Usually rewards people.
And well said. Well said. And what I love about your story is, so many people are afraid to take chances, and especially some of the chances that you took. Literally moving from Idaho, where your kids were, had tons of friends, they were doing great, you were doing great, and to move clear over to Florida, an absolute, completely different experience, and to make the best of it. And also, I'm certain the fishing over there was unbelievable as well, and to not only provide a different hockey experience, but a different outdoor experience. Then you meet all those cool people. Then you move up to Canada. Yeah, I think the lesson here is that, honestly, for people, it's only through taking chances that you're going to improve your life. Nothing happens when you just stay the status quo. Nothing great comes around. You don't necessarily know what's around the corner, but more often than not, it's better than what you have today. And it's funny how your life has, every time you took a chance, went to Notre Dame, took you to Alaska. Alaska took you to the pros. Took a chance in coming to Idaho, playing for the Steelheads. You wouldn't think of playing professional hockey in Boise, Idaho. You guys ended up winning a cup. Off to Florida, put your kids in a great environment. Over to Canada. Now both of your kids, through this, challenging your kids, putting them in different environments, also allowing them. I think for a lot of parents and people listening to this, we do get confused on sports and also integrating, how do my kids so busy with soccer, we never have time to go to the outdoors. I hear that all the time. Oh, we're so busy now. You not only were able to be the director of hockey for these places, have two kids that were extreme athletes, but also got them into the outdoors. So there's really no excuses out there for not challenging yourself and making it happen.
No.
Scourgy and I were just talking about last week during our podcast how cool it was to take these little rugrats that grew up in Boise, Idaho. You and I met when my kid wasn't even on the ice yet. She was like 4 or 5. And now this last summer, all of them are off doing their own cool things in hockey at different levels. And now they're off. What was cool about it is in the middle of their training, they all took off for 5 days. No parents went off and did their own adventure in the Fake Church Wilderness. And it was all about fly fishing and hiking and campfires and enjoying the outdoors. And to me, man, that was the best. That was the best.
Yeah, that was so cool. I mean, it was. I'm still upset with the kids though because we didn't get the invite. But
we're gonna have to go do it and do it even better.
I know. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think. In life, when you're in sports and you're in the outdoors, and I think there's a connection. I mean, anytime I've met somebody that's into the outdoors or into fly fishing, especially, we connect. There's an instant connection. That's how I got to Montana. My basketball coach for Notre Dame, he was from Rock Creek. Didn't know this at the time. He took over our basketball program, and we're at dinner or mess hall one night or lunch, I think. And I hear this guy talking about fly fishing, and right away I was like, you fly fish? He goes, yeah. He goes, from Montana. So, I mean, 3 months later at his parents' cabin in Rock Creek with our kids, taking my boys fly fishing and hanging with his family, and then we're friends to this day. So, I mean, there's always a connection. I think, I don't know what it is, but when you're in the outdoors, I think people are pretty mellow. I think they have a good head on their shoulders. You have to be, because, I mean, there are dangers in what you do in the outdoors, and if you don't have a clear mind when you do these things, it's tough to perform. And I think when you enjoy the same things as others, you tend to connect. So our kids, you know, your kid and my kids and Truey and Waddy and Gallagher, like they all met up, all former hockey teammates at a young age that have gone their separate ways.
Yeah.
Now the one commonality they have is fly fishing and the outdoors, and they're back together and they had a blast. And they'll do it again. You know, this will be something they'll probably do for the rest of their lives if they're all back to stay in Idaho. And it's something that you and I have done. I remember we used to make our Tuesday runs to the big salmon, little salmon after our kids' practices. And then we'd fish all day Wednesday and then get back Wednesday night. And, you know, really got my love of fishing, you know, back because I didn't fish for a long time. I was always golfing, and that really, you know, all my golfing buddies weren't happy. They were like, "You come to our
I
tournament?"
know. I
like,
remember
"No,
that.
head in the river." Like, Millsy, where are you? You're always fishing. You haven't had. I didn't golf for almost 10 years until COVID.
I know.
My clubs were away,
Yeah.
and you know, when COVID hit, there's nothing else I could really do in Saskatchewan at the time except for hit a golf ball around the field maybe. And then I kind of got my passion back for golf. But now that I'm back in Idaho, yeah, I mean, I'll fly fish every day if I could. You know, obviously I'm busy with work and getting this program to the next level. But yeah, it's something that it's so easy to do. I mean, just a 20-minute drive to the river, clear your
Yeah.
mind, get in the water. I've run into moose, I don't know, 4,
Totally.
5, 6 times. And, you know, just in a great water here, a lot of fish. It's very fishable, very accessible. So it's an amazing place. Like, and it's, you know, it's not busy, which is even better.
Yeah. Well, after this podcast, it will be, because obviously there's hundreds of thousands of people listening to this. But, you know, that's not an area that I had fished a ton. I grew up in Montana, and I've fished all over there, and I've definitely fished all over Idaho. But I haven't made it to the top part yet. This summer I was planning on coming up and hanging out with you. We never made it happen. We need to do some fall fishing here. But, yeah, I guess you have amazing fishing up around Coeur d'Alene. Like world-class cutthroat fishing is my understanding.
Yeah.
So, and then from the pictures that you're showing,
yeah, I mean,
real.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even caught one of the big boys yet. I've caught some nice cutthroat through here, but there are some absolute toads in this river. Luke had one on. He was fishing a shallow pool, a little riffle into a deep pool, and he had a little fish on, and this monster came out of the depth and then hammered his fish he had on, and then he had a fight on the sands, probably about, I don't know, 23, 24-inch cutty, thick boy
Wow.
too. So there's some big ones that you get on the river, you get some vantage points you can see down these fishing holes. There are some absolute toads in there. So that always keeps you coming back. You know, when you hear about ghosts and then all of a sudden you see them, you believe in them. So, I mean, it's a cool river. The salmon are in right now. They're just coming up from the lake. So it's now you get the big cutties that are trailing the salmon and going after the eggs. And so it's a cool spot. There's the main river. There's a lot of tributaries that run into it. When the water's higher, you can hit these tributaries, and they're stocked with fish. There's so many different spots to go to, and it's just a long stretch. So if there's people in your spot, you just drive 5 minutes to the next spot, and so forth. And there's plenty of access off the main highway. Then if you want to go, you know, kind of high mountain or deep in the woods, you can. We do that too. I have a couple places that we've figured out on our own that we have a pattern we run when I take the boys. We kind of figured it out, and then if that place isn't productive, we go to there's A, B, C, and D holes up here, so we're fortunate again. And it's this amazing spot. I mean, like I said, the wildlife is out. The weather's great. There's the hatch here is incredible. You got a lot of bugs on the water, and when the fish are popping, I mean, you're having big days out there when the hatches are on, the fish are hitting. It's fun.
And I hear from you, and I've seen some pictures too. What's cool about it is the water's just gin clear. You can see the fish. I mean, you see the bottom of the river.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you see, it's amazing. I've had some takes that you see on videos or like your website or your Instagram pages. Like when you can see the fish just come off the bottom slowly and just start to sip at your fly. You're like, oh my goodness, you just see it coming, and then don't set too early, don't set it. But it's you can see the fish coming everywhere. even in the riffles, it's so clear. You
Yeah.
can see flashes. So
Mm.
that's what makes it fun. I mean, when you're learning, you got to get your casting down because it is clear water. You can't be splashing the water, and you can't be just sloppy with your casts and your false casts. But so you have to tighten those things up. But once you get into a rhythm up here and you know where they're at and you see them rising, I mean, it's like the fish are where they're supposed to be and they're doing what they're supposed to do on those days. When you see the structure or you see the tail outs and you see the fish sipping, you just have to get that fly somewhere in that area and you're going to get a hit. So yeah, it's a cool river. I knew nothing about it. Actually, Camden Gallagher, who played up here at CDA Hockey Academy, told me where to go, and I kind of
Yeah.
evolved from
Yeah.
there. And then one of my first stops is always a local fly shop, so I got to meet the guys from owners from Castaway.
Castaway.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Joe and Cord Lane and Riches and Cindy are up in Kingston, so I got to meet those guys and girls, and they every day I walk in there. I just ask them, hey, what are they hitting on today? Because they have guides out on the water every day, and they're real helpful. They're real good people,
Yeah.
and
Love Joe.
again, they've been doing this for a long time, so they're very good. Even if I don't need anything, I stop in there, just say hi, and telling fishing stories or talking and buying a couple flies and whatever I need and getting out of there. But yeah, so great people, and again, I feel fortunate. I live so close to such a productive river, and I think that was the first stop. I know when the boys moved to Coeur d'Alene from the summertime, I met Luke in Montana, and we fished there for 2 days on our own, and then we stopped. And his
Yeah.
first thing was, "Let's go to your spot, Dad. Show me your spot." So I showed him the ropes there, and then when Connor was driving down from Alberta at the time, and we went to Whitefish for a few days. He left it there early. He's like, "I got to go to your spot. Give me a map." And so I showed him where to go, and then they were there every day. So they loved it. I mean, they work out here in the mornings. There's a bunch of pro guys, NHL guys, and Western League guys, college guys, junior guys that train in this area. So they would skate in the mornings with them and then get their workouts in. And then in the afternoons, we hit the river. And that was kind of rinse
Yeah.
and repeat. So not a bad lifestyle for them. And they did some work too, working hockey schools and making some money. But it's just nice to clear your mind and get away from whether you're an athlete or whether you're in my profession. Sometimes you just got to get away. And what a way to do it,
Yep.
by getting on the river and connecting with nature and catching some fish. And yeah, it's just a gorgeous place to be. And we're very fortunate. But I made a lot of stops along the way.
Well,
So.
you kind of just answered. You kind of just answered the question that I was going to ask. In that, we've talked a lot about hockey, talked a lot about raising kids, talked a lot about, giving kids opportunities to play multiple sports and taking challenges as a parent. Real quick, not to put you on the spot, but what would you say, fly fishing is, the most important aspect of not just fly fishing, because I think the listeners here isn't just fly fishing. We're all about fishing and getting outdoors. What do you think the most important aspect of fishing would be for you and your boys?
I think it's just the connection you get with your kid when, your kids want to they want to impress you. They want to catch that fish, for themselves, but it's pretty cool when you have taught them something that they can now do on their own, and when you're on the
Yeah.
river. I remember the first time Connor caught a big brown in BC. We're fishing the Cowichan River, and we had a slow day the first day, and we thought, well, do we go back home? And we no, spend the night. And the next day we went out, and this guy was snorkeling the river, and he's like, "Hey, there's some big browns in the spot right, there's a little runoff into the main river." And so I ended up roping a big brown right with Connor. And then so after I caught mine, landed it, I see him on the bank changing his flies. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I think they're hitting stone flies. I see some stone flies around these rocks." He was like 12 at the time, I think. And so I kind of back off the hole, and he's fishing it, and all of a sudden he ropes this big brown. And I'm sitting there watching the whole time. He's reeling. I'm like thinking to myself, like, "Don't lose it, don't lose it, don't lose it." This is the fish of a lifetime for him. And so he lands the thing, and we get some pictures with it. And to this day, it's like a great experience. We both look back on it and smile. And we always give Luke crap because Luke was with us, but he decided to go get ice cream with his cousins, and he left. He's like, he wasn't patient enough. He's like, "I'm going to catch anything, Dad." He goes, "I'm going get some ice cream. I'm going home," with his aunt. So we ended up staying. Connor and I stayed. So just learn about that resilience and kind of that second effort. I think for me and fly
Yep.
fish from the boys, just that connection. The conversations having, being happy for each other when you rope that toad, chirping each other when you're not catching anything. In Montana, Luke was roping fish. I wasn't catching anything. Finally, I broke down. I'm like, okay, what are you using? He's like, purple haze. I'm like, give me one. So then I started roping fish with him, and he's like, I thought it was just me. I was just a better fisherman. I'm like, no, you found the fly. So it's funny because there's times he'll look at me. I'm like, I don't know, figure it out. What do you think they're hitting? It's like, come on, just tell me.
Yeah.
Just that banter going back and forth, just the competitiveness you have in that. I mean, it's a great sport, but it is competitive. Don't get me wrong. Like fly fishing, you want to come back to that biggest fish. And I'm more about quality than quantity. So if I don't catch a ton of fish, but I catch the biggest one of the day, yeah, that's going to be heard all the way home. There's no doubt.
Yep. Same
so
here.
I just gave us a chance to get away from hockey and school and just be, father-son conversations. And sometimes we wouldn't say anything. Here's 2 hours, just two different holes, just staring down at each other, just fishing with the boys, and just knowing they're there and hearing them laugh. The two sons hanging out. It's like, I guess this goes back to the old days where you're exploring, right? Montana was unbelievable. We had access to so much private water because the guys that we're with grew up in that area, so we could go to a rancher's property, open the gate, and then he would just wave at him the car. He knew who my buddy's dad was, and we fished just these remote rivers. So you're exploring with your kids too, and you look back at those memories, and because those times you have with your kids, you get fewer and fewer and far between. As they get older, because they get their own lives going, but the one connection we do have when they're back is trust me, they want to go fly fish with dad, and that's something where it's it's just a way for us to spend time together and hang out. Basically, whether we talk or not, we're together. That's most important.
Yeah. And I actually want to key in on that for a second because there's a couple things. One is, and we've talked about this, Camden Gallagher, by the way, the one who turned Jeremy onto the river up in Coeur d'Alene, he's one of the guys we got into fishing. I mean, this is a kid. He's one of our kids' friends, and he's sharing these tips. And so, getting your kids on the water is really, really important. And and you and I talked about this back when we were steelhead fishing. We'd look up and down the river, and how many dads, no offense calling them out, but how many dads don't take their kids out there fishing? How many dads look to go into the river as their opportunity to get away? I need a break. And then flash forward, your kid's 18, 19, 23 years old, and he doesn't want to spend time with you. It's not that he doesn't want to spend time with you. It's that you haven't created a connection for them to do at that age. Kids don't need a dad anymore as much as they start to need a friend and a dad and someone to go hang out with. And I think the beauty of taking your kid out hunting and fishing and making time for that is you're going to create a bond later on in life where now when your kids come back, they want to hang out with you and actually go out and do these fishing. So taking your kid out today not only changes their world and introduces them to something that's so important, but it also has a major effect in your long-term relationship with your kids.
Yeah. And I think the kids, especially in athletics, I always tell my kids, leave the sticks on the rack. When you leave the ring, sticks stay there, and so does the conversations. We'll talk hockey, but we're not going to bring games. Like I used to beat myself up after games or a bad game, or pro hockey is a little different. There's expectations, there's contracts on the line, and you're trying to make a living out of it, so you got to perform. But there's going to be bad days, and how you respond and perform the next day is going to show your worth. And so I think the fishing side of it, again, it gets their mind. Just you talk about mental health. I mean, if you're living I think too many kids nowadays play for the wrong reasons. They're playing to make it or get something. I'm like, don't play because you're trying to make it to Division One. Play because you want to play hockey. You love it. It's a game for life. And I think they need that break mentally just to get away from it all. And I think when you're able to, if you really enjoy nature and outdoors and fly fishing, the last thing on your mind is hockey. And that's a good thing. And I think parents, cool thing for me is going to be one day is looking back and see them doing it with their kids. Hopefully, they have kids that they can pass what they learned from me down to theirs, and that's where the reward's going to come in as a grandparent. You're going to be like, that's pretty cool. Like I helped start this, and now it's going to go on for generations, right? You hope, because the outdoors. You know, I've been on some hunting trips with you. I still remember the elk going elk calling with you, and when up in McCall area, and just getting outdoors with somebody, your friends or family, or especially your kids is, and what a cool experience, you know. And I didn't get into hunting. I
Totally.
want to, something that I left Idaho and moved to Florida at the time, and you and I were just starting to get out into it, and I was starting to learn how to shoot a bow, and I
Yeah.
was really intrigued by it, and that was the next step for me. But life took another curve, so I went a different route, and but now I'm back in the area where, yeah, I met some good people here, and I can't wait to learn the other side of hunting too, because I'm sure that's very similar to fly fishing, where you know, you got to know what you're doing. You have to put yourself in the right situations, and you got to perform. So I think that's something that would be, a lot of fun to do.
Well, like anyone who hunts or fishes, yes, it's great to catch and kill, for sure. But at the end of the day, I think we all agree that it's just about getting outside, enjoying sunsets and sunrises, and conversations with friends, and near misses, and
Yeah.
the memories that those create. So, one of my fondest memories for you and I is our steelhead fishing trip. It was our first one down on the main salmon, and you were just getting into fishing, and I loaned you some waders, and we went and did some fishing. Remember that?
I always tell the story too. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. I was asking you, I said, what kind of waiter should I get? And these Sims things are expensive, man. And you're like, you probably want to go with
Pro
quality,
tip.
and yeah, a little tip. And we went fishing the next day. I think it was wintertime. I want to say I don't even know, but it was cold out, and you gave me an
Let's
old
go.
pair of waders, and they had a leak in them, and I was frozen on the boat. Luckily, your buddy remember he had his drift boat. He had a little heater in there, and
Yeah.
an extra set of waders. Thank God, a nice pair
And
of Sims. And then
there's no hole in them.
after the trip, yeah, after the trip, they're like, okay, now you've learned a valuable lesson, Millsy. Here's the difference between expensive waders and cheap waders. I was like, I could have listened to you without having to go through the ordeal. I would have trusted you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
day,
But
I tell the story. I laugh. I'm like, what a friend! Amazing, we're still friends today. After that, I gotta say, it was like January or something. I mean, it was
well, I'm telling you,
freezing out.
and your whole entire leg was soaking wet. It wasn't like it was kind of
It was
wet. You were
frozen. It
soaking
was
wet.
soaking wet. Like it just rode up. No, it rode up my like you have your insulators and your pants, socks. Like it was up to my shirt. The water just creeping up, and I was like on the boat, just teeth chattering. Didn't know what. Like I didn't want to be soft to be like, I don't know, maybe this is normal. It's like, I don't think it's normal to be this cold, but maybe that's what waders do. I don't know. They used to surf too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
go
You
this
got to be
cold, the
tough
water
to
gets in your
fish.
wetsuit, and I'm thinking the same thing. But yeah, I'm like, man, these guys aren't even like
Warm
not
up.
even making like a noise or anything. It's like these guys are tough. Oh, jeez. Well, I was miserable,
And then
miserable. But
what
that
I
was
loved, my favorite one was
this day, man. It was so
the
fun.
I loved when Lance, after we watched you freeze for a while, and you got the heater turned on, and then Lance says nonchalantly, "Do you want to borrow a pair of waders that don't leak?" Sure, sure.
It's like the scene. It's like the scene from Dumb and Dumber when he's got two pairs of gloves on and the other guy's got none. He's like, my hands are sweating here.
Exactly.
You want to use my extra pair?
I
Oh,
have a pair that doesn't
that was
leak if
funny.
you'd rather wear those. Yeah.
I couldn't get those things on fast enough. And here I am too, because I was so excited to be on this river to go fly fishing. And he was teaching me remember he taught me how to throw a spay rod as well that day. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you showed me all the holes on the little salmon too. I guess I still have some great pictures and great memories from the little salmon, just catching my first steelhead on that place, and meeting some of the locals out there that weren't happy that we were on their so-called property when I learned about
Yep.
high water mark real quick with you. Yeah, that was pretty fun stuff.
Yeah.
But what an amazing spot
The
too, like to
laws.
fish that area. Yeah, unreal.
Uh, Well, hey, man, it has been awesome having you on. Really has been. I plan on, both you and Scorsy having you guys on again because I think, you are a huge part of what this show's about. Being a great husband, being a great leader in your community, being a great dad, being a great friend, and holding yourself to that level of wanting to be, that kind of person, challenging yourself to be that kind of person. And so I really, really appreciate you as a friend. I really look up to you, really look up to the challenges that you've done. I mean, I remember when you left Boise, it was a terrible day for me. It was a terrible day for my family. And now to have you and to watch the journey, to watch what it did to you and to your family and how you guys grew, became even stronger. Watch what happened to your two kids and now what they're doing with their lives and where they're playing. It's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing what you've done and the challenges that you've faced and freaking crushed. And again, that's what this podcast is about, is just showing people you're not an average Joe. Obviously, you play professional sports, but, you busted your ass to get there. You also had some things along the way that didn't go your way. And then it turns out, just through having the right attitude, things did go your way. And that's kind of how fishing is and how life is.
Yeah.
And I think that you are the definition of it, man. So I appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're back in Idaho.
Yeah, me too,
Right on,
man.
bud.
Can't wait to get to hang out and catch some fish.
Well, it is steelhead season. So between me coming up to Coeur d'Alene to fish some of that gin clear water for cutties, you got to meet me in the middle, and we're going to do some steelhead fishing again and get back on that with waders that don't leak.
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it. I'm ready. Yeah, I got two pairs.
All right, bud.
This one does. Thanks, Oki. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon. All right.